Disclaimer. The information contained in this production should not be used as a substitute for the advice of an appropriately qualified and licensed professional. The information provided is for informational and entertainment purposes only.
We have now officially made it to episode 5 of Ask Sue and Kate's, where we are just chit-chatting mother and daughter, and we also have it in podcast format on Spotify, so check it out there. And this episode is going to be a little different. My mom doesn't even know.
I am in the dark. I have no idea what's coming. I'm a little nervous.
She has no clue. So this should make for an interesting episode, I guess. We didn't have questions to answer for this one, so we are just going to wing it. And this episode, I'm going to share a couple hot takes that I've seen online. They're not my own hot takes, but they're just like hot takes. And I want to see how actually both of us are going to respond, but some of these are really funny.
Am I going to understand them?
Yes,
okay.
You will understand them. And we're just going to elaborate on some of them. This is the start of the video. We'll see where it goes. It might turn into something else. We don't know. But we're going to start with the first hot take, which does have to do with food.
Oh,
so
I know about that.
Yeah. This one says that drinks don't need glitter on it. I have a huge problem with this hot take.
What? I don't understand.
So a hot take is like a controversial statement.
Okay. Well, I get that, but a glitter in drinks?
Okay, maybe it's some random person's hot take that I found because of course I did. But drinks don't need glitter on it. I mean, I feel like all the fun drinks have glitter these days.
Glitter?
Yeah.
Doesn't it burn going down your throat or stick in your teeth?
It's edible. It's not real glitter.
In your drink?
Yeah. I'll make you one. Oh, I should have brought some, and I could have made our drinks with glitter if I knew that this was going to be a hot take.
I can hardly wait. So what makes it better?
It's pretty.
Oh yeah, you. Oh yeah, it's you. Uh-huh.
I'm a glitter gal. Yeah, so that's just a silly one. I'm starting off easy there. So
okay,
you
that is
don't
easy.
Care about glitter.
I don't have an opinion on glitter and drinks.
This is a hot take that I feel like you actually have some experience in. Okay. And I do too because you dragged me along as a child.
Okay.
And this is American road trips are overrated.
As opposed to European road trips or as opposed to no road trips?
Maybe as opposed to flying somewhere.
Oh, that is ignorant. Can I say that?
Yeah.
Road trips are awesome. Oh my gosh. We drug her and her brother to Nebraska so many times. And you get to see things. I mean, on an airplane, I was in awe one time, however, I was flying home from, I don't know where. I think I was in New York or something, and we flew over, and I could see the Mississippi River, and I thought, wow, that river's big. But then we were in New Orleans, and the Mississippi River is big because you're right there. So road trips are amazing. Yes.
Well, there's pluses and minuses to road trips.
Tell me a minus. Traveling with children.
Well, yeah, you're just stuck in the car a long time. And I haven't taken a road trip as an adult further than Vegas. So I don't really consider that a road trip because, Las Vegas from where we are is, like a 5-hour drive?
Yeah, about.
Which is not like a road trip. In my mind, I'm thinking days. Like you stop at a little hotel or motel, hole-in-the-wall motel, and then you get back on the road in the morning and you just keep driving. And I remember as a child, we did have a lot of fun. We had a lot of good times because you guys always had us ready. Like we used to have a portable DVD player before like cars had the DVD player or iPads were even available. And
it wasn't even DVD, it was VHS.
Was it VHS?
Yes. We still have it.
You do?
Yes. We could go on another road trip and need it.
Yeah, Mom. Okay, sure. Like, let's pull out all the VHSs.
I still have them.
Car. But I remember we'd always watch Con Air, the movie with Nick Cage. And we would literally watch that movie. That was our road trip movie.
Zorro.
Zorro, yeah, Zorro. And we did have like fun things that you guys brought games, like travel games, and my brother and I would play in the back seat. But I do remember like fighting with my brother a lot. Like he and I were like so stir crazy in the car that we would just like constantly be pestering each other, elbowing each other, like just annoying each other really. And I think that's it would get boring as a kid. You want to get out and run around. As an adult, I feel like I'd be able to tolerate it a little bit more and just like maybe read a book or something or help drive,
Yeah.
But
Well, some of the things though that you would miss, and again, this is because this was many years ago. We had stopped at some cafe, and I want to say we were in Wyoming or I have no idea, New Mexico. We were in some little off the road cafe, and we walked in there, and there weren't very many people in there, and when you're from California and you have California plates, or you're from out of state, there's a lot of looks that you get. But we walk in there and we sit down, and Katie, there's this thing on the table, and Kate said, "What is that?" It was an ashtray. Because you couldn't smoke in California anywhere. I mean, I don't know, maybe we still had those smoking sections, but they'd never been in a place where they had ashtrays. And so she, what is that? And we went like, that's an ashtray, Kate. But you just get to get the lay of the land, and you get to talk to people. The rest areas in California has probably not the best rest areas. A lot of the rest areas in other states are absolutely beautiful. And I love road trips. Yeah. And I don't love them as much as I used to. But when we just went to Napa, that was so great. And then we came back around, and it was, I always think I don't want to do it because I'd like to be home.
Yeah.
But then when we're there, there's so much to see.
Yeah, you're right. And I think very true, like especially when you're driving in America and you're going from one state to the next, like it can be like visiting a different country.
Yes.
Every state you go to is like a little different, and the people even have different accents. I remember going to Josh and Jessica's wedding. I think it was in Texas, and everyone was like, I was a young kid still. I think maybe how old was I? Like 15
maybe, yeah,
somewhere around there, maybe even a little younger. But I remember somebody there, they had a really thick Texan accent, and they came up to me and they were like, "I love your accent." And I'm like, "What? My accent?" I'm like, and it's just so funny because you're not in that, you don't live in the States, so of course you have an accent. But as a kid, and you don't realize that like not everybody has the exact same way of speaking as you. So I thought that was kind of funny.
The United States is so beautiful. I had this thought one time. I didn't go to Washington, D.C. until I think 2009 maybe. It was the first time I was in Washington, D.C. And I had been to Mexico City. I had been to Madrid. I had been to Papeete, Tahiti. I'd been to a bunch of capitals. Never Washington, D.C. And it occurred to me that kind of nuts that I hadn't been to the capital of my own country, but I was visiting these other countries, and Madrid, Spain. I mean, I was a lot of places before I went to Washington, D.C. So our country's beautiful.
Yeah.
It is there, as you said, every state has its own sort of environmental beauty, and there's national parks in every state. So I'm a road trip fan.
I know. I feel like I am more of a road trip fan than Tim. Tim refuses. He just won't. I've tried so many times to be like, let's do a road trip. And he's like, no. But I think because he didn't really grow up doing road trips, and we did. So, I guess it just depends on your family and how, like, the dynamic you grew up in. And, right now it's kind of expensive to be driving around getting gas everywhere, but maybe that's just a California problem.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to do another hot take.
Well, that was a fun one.
Yeah, it was fun, right? So this actually is very good timing because we just recently had daylight savings. So this question is, we should get rid, or it's not a question, but the hot take is, we should get rid of daylight savings time. It's interesting.
My favorite TV show of all times is Sunday Morning on CBS at 6 o'clock on Sunday mornings. Well, here in California, it's on at 6 o'clock on Sunday mornings. I love that show. This morning, there was an opinion piece on daylight saving. It's not savings. I learned this morning.
Okay, no
Daylight
S.
saving time, and the commentator was saying we should just leave it like this all the time and not change it to whatever the other one it is, or this is whatever this is.
This is spring forward.
Okay, so because what he was saying is he loves it staying staying light later,
Right?
And because you go to work in the dark, and in October and November you go to work in the dark and you come home in the dark.
Yes.
So you never see daylight during those months because the days are shorter, for one thing. But the other thing that I read today about it is there are more heart attacks and strokes after this change than there are in the one where we fall back, which I don't know what that's about.
Yeah.
But, our bodies don't love change like that.
I actually read an article recently, too, saying that daylight saving is harmful to our health. And maybe that's associated with that exact statistic. But, I mean, I do think that we did have, at least in California, on our ballot, I think it was last year or the year before, it
was 2018.
You're kidding.
No.
2018? Oh, my gosh. Okay. Well, on that ballot, they asked, that we got to vote if we wanted to keep it to not change daylight savings, but actually what the real thing you're voting for was to have the politicians in our state decide for us if there was daylight saving or not. And clearly they have chosen to continue daylight savings. But I know there's a lot of other, actually I think there's like is there 3 states that don't participate in it? Or 3 areas?
Again,
maybe?
that was in the paper this morning, and there were like 4 or 5 places that one of the native nations, I think one of them in Arizona,
right?
Hawaii doesn't.
Do it, yeah.
Like Guam, some of the offshore islands don't, but not very many. I thought Arizona didn't for a long time, but that wasn't on the list. So
I feel like Arizona was one too, but maybe it's just like parts of Arizona.
yeah, and that may be.
So what do you think? Do you feel like we should continue to do it, or do you think it's something that just isn't necessary?
I really do have mixed feelings about this. Not as mixed now, but when you kids were little, I loved it when we went back an hour.
Oh, yeah.
Because you would come in at night. So when it was a school night and it got dark, well, it was dark by 4:30.
So you'd come in.
So you'd come in and you'd get your homework and your bath, and we'd get dinner, and you'd get to bed on time. When it stays light until 8:30, it was impossible to get you kids in the house because you go, no, we're still playing, Mom. And so from that perspective, which is just a selfish perspective, really, that was helpful. And there's part of me that really likes the fall because it does get dark earlier, and and if it cools down, which not until December here, but you can have a fire in the fireplace, and so. And then I like this. I like it that we get to stay out later when the weather's beautiful and we can barbecue in the backyard, and stay out there. So I sort of don't mind. I guess that's what I'm saying is I kind of, aside from the sleep thing, and getting used to it, but I don't think I mind.
I think you had such a good point, because the most opinionated people about daylight saving have got to be parents. Parents they hate when it's forward, because then the kids don't they're on, little kids have a schedule. Most of the time you have a schedule for naps and for going to bed at night and then waking up, and so many parents get frustrated, especially like my friends included, saying that, oh yes, I gain an extra hour of sleep, but then what does the kid do? Adjust somehow, some way, and still wake up at the same time, and it's even earlier. And so I think that's so funny I mean, it's annoying, but it's also funny as a parent, just because those things just happen, and you're thinking, oh, I'm going to get an extra hour, and then it's like, yeah, right, okay. Your kid's going to let you get the extra hour. But I think, for me, I actually would not mind if they just did away with it. I just think it would be so much easier to not, just keep doing the flip-flop switch and just let it be and just live your life like that, because it's I don't know. It's now that our phones change automatically, I would say it's a lot easier to, like, if you set your alarm, your phone's going to immediately, like at 3 a.m. or 2 a.m. whenever it change the time, and then your alarm's still going to go off at the correct time. But I remember before there were cell phones, or even when there were cell phones and your phone didn't change, you had to actually manually go in and change it. Wow, that was sometimes really hard, especially when you're setting an alarm and stuff. Yeah. So you need to set your clock before it actually changes. So, technology.
And if it was done away with, we wouldn't know the difference.
Yeah, you're right. We wouldn't know the difference.
I mean, it would just be the way it's kind of like this. It just, there's one day, or I guess it takes about a week for our body to get used to the new time. But then it's just regular and for 6 more months. And then, so I feel like if it changed to always being one time, that'd be fine. Yeah. We wouldn't know the difference.
Exactly.
Eventually, nobody would remember that or they'd go, do you remember back in the day when we changed every 6 months, we changed the clock.
Well, our animals know for sure. Yeah. They're on a schedule, and like when time changes, they're like, you're not feeding me at 5 o'clock sharp. I'm like, it actually is. The time changed. All right. Okay, let's find another one because these are fun.
Those are fun.
Here's a good one. Now, this is interesting. It says, airplanes aren't safer than cars. There are just fewer of them.
Yeah, but they have a whole bunch more people in them.
That's true. And they're going multiple times a day sometimes.
Yeah.
Depending on where you're flying to,
But I mean, statistically, if you look at the statistics, it's much safer to fly.
Well, they're saying because there's like so few. If there were as many airplanes as there were cars, would there be as many accidents? Is really what.
Well, they'd be running into each other in the sky because there'd be too many, like on the freeway.
Oh yeah, that would be scary.
Yeah, that would be really scary. That's like when I think of the Jetsons, and they have those hover cars. And I think, how do you stay in a lane? What do they have, like jet streams that are your?
It's obviously all navigated. You're not driving. The car just knows. It's like so futuristic. But I feel like one day that's going to happen where their cars are going to be flying, but nobody's driving.
Yeah.
It's like autopilot. And the cars are their own lane. It's like it's an invisible whatever. I don't know.
That'll be something. I think flying is safer than driving because we do it so much less, for one thing.
Yeah.
But also that, the airline industry's got it pretty well figured out about how to keep airplanes in the sky, how to take off from the ground, and how to land back onto the ground. And of course, sometimes errors are made and sometimes things fail. But I think for the most part, I personally would still rather drive.
Yeah.
I mean, if I could drive to Vancouver.
Me too.
We would do that. But sometimes you got to fly.
Sometimes you have to fly.
Yeah.
I know. Flying does give me like pretty bad anxiety sometimes, where I just feel like, I'm nervous. But I guess for the most part, like you said, they're safe. It's just unfortunate because you do hear about the things that go wrong, and we all heard about the airplane whose door like flew off, and
it wasn't even the door;
video.
it was just a part of the wall.
Panel, yeah, which is crazy, and like horrifying now that everybody has video and they can like show the actual what's happening, and like, oh my gosh, that gives me anxiety too, just thinking like I don't feel safe going on planes when you see those things. I'm like, I just can't watch it because either never go on a plane or you just have thoughts that you're going to be okay.
Well, and there actually are people, there are celebrities that tour, musicians that tour, and they won't fly.
I know. Well,
I think maybe Reba McEntire is one of them.
Oh, she is?
I might have made that up. But there are...
Well, Travis Barker was for a long time.
Several that won't fly. And they have these beautiful buses but it still takes so much longer to get from here to there. So I think, fear of flying, again, is a real thing.
Yeah.
People get, there's I guess that's what Xanax is for, to help you get on a plane.
Alcohol.
Alcohol. Belly up to the bar before you get on that plane.
Yeah, and then don't get kicked out because you had too
Yeah.
much. All right, so I'm going to move away from the hot takes, and I'm just going to ask a couple like questions, and maybe we can answer them to get to know us a little bit better, and just for fun. So the first question is, would you call yourself brave?
Yes and no. I'm really brave when it comes to stepping into danger to stop something that I think might be harmful to somebody else from happening. I am not real brave when it comes to like trying new things. I get intimidated, I think. I skied one time. It didn't go well. There's a story. And so I think yes and no. I'm really brave with some things, and I'm really not brave with other things. I think as I've gotten older, I'm less brave about things. Okay. When you kids were young, I was less brave about some things because I needed to be your mom.
Yeah.
And I needed to be smart and not take chances. So, again, like everything else, maybe it's a little bit situational too. How about you? Are you brave?
I would say you're going to laugh because something about my son, he's 7, and he is such a brave kid. He is so brave in situations where when I look back at his age, I was a complete wreck. And the example that I always think about is getting shots, like getting your vaccines. My mom knows because I was the craziest child. I literally, like, they would lie to me going to the doctor when I had to go get a shot. And it would be like a whole thing. And it was like, it was embarrassing. Like, looking back, I was terrified, like so freaked. And, my son, he is the biggest champ. He hates getting shots too. I mean, who doesn't? Nobody wants to get a shot. Yeah. But like when he goes and has to get one, he's so brave, like he might have a little tear, but I'm like blown away. And I think since having him, a lot of the things like going to school and how scary that is, and like he just holds his head up, and I know he's scared sometimes, but he is the bravest person I know. Like he really he does everything that is asked of him, even if it's scary. Obviously not something to hurt himself, but like big things, starting school, trying new things, swim class, like all of the things that are really scary as a kid. And I just have to say he is just such an inspiration. So I think since having him and seeing the way he is, he's made me become more brave. And a caveat to that is, as a parent, I feel like I am so much more willing to put myself in dangerous situations to protect him. And if that means that I have to and maybe not even dangerous too, just having any type of confrontation with somebody if their kid's being mean, or if something happens to him and I need to stick up for him because he's still too young to do that. As a parent, I don't necessarily think it's fun, or I don't want to have to have the conversation with another parent if their kid is doing this. Hasn't really happened, I think, one time, but I know that before I'd be a lot more intimidated, and I just think as a parent, your job in life is to keep your kids safe and protected, and to let them grow up and become independent and be on their own. And so I think for me, just knowing that, and you always used to say if there was a train and you were on the tracks, I would push you out of the way and I'd get hit by a train, or I'd get hit by the bus. And I'd always be like, that's nuts. Like, what? Why? And now I'm like, I get it. I'm going to jump in front of the car. I will jump in front of the bullet. Like, I will do anything. And that's, I think, just, I don't know if that's an instinct or being brave or both, but I think that's something that definitely changed, because before I had kids, if there was someone shooting in a crowd or something, I'm going to run and get away. But if my kid's there, or even if there are other kids there, I feel like I'd want to protect them, and I would put myself in harm's way to be the adult in the situation and protect the kids, because it's just kind of like what you're supposed to do.
Well, I think some of it really is instinctual.
Yeah.
That we protect our children because they're next. I think this has nothing to do with Brave, but when you were talking, you were probably, I want to say 8 or 9 or 10, and you said, "Mom, who do you love most, me or Mark or Dad?" And I said,
Dad.
I said, "Dad." And your feelings were so hurt. And I said, "You're going to grow up and go away. I got to keep him." But your feelings were so hurt that I said, "Dad."
Well, I think you elaborated on that and said, I love you guys in different ways.
Yeah.
Like, I love you the same.
Yeah.
Because I think that's probably true. You love us all on the same level,
Yes.
but it's just in a different way. And I think you explained that to me, and I was like, I didn't get it at the time. But, once you get older and you have kids and you're married and stuff, things start to, like, make a lot more sense.
Yes.
So that is funny because I remember that story. All right, let's look at another one.
My children.
No. Okay, so this is a good question. It says, when do you feel safest?
Do you want to start this time?
I feel like I feel safest now as an adult when my husband is with me. He makes me feel safe. He makes me feel like protected. And he is a very protective person. Like when I was pregnant, oh my gosh, this man, you would think that I had bodyguards. Like, he would just be like, perimeter, don't get near her. Like, precious cargo on board.
One of those blow up balls.
Yeah,
you put him,
a bubble boy, a bubble girl. But I just feel like when he was working and going out of town a lot, he'd have business trips where he'd be leaving a lot. And although I feel like completely fine and safe in my house, there is a different feeling about just being in bed next to your partner and feeling that security and knowing that if something happens at night, even if I'm the one to jump up and check, like, he's there to have my back, and vice versa. Like, we both are very, like, conscientious of each other, and we try to make each other feel secure and safe. But I do think, like, that's probably when I feel safest, is when he's around. But I think as a kid, it's interesting because it's not like a place for me. It's the people. And I think you and Dad also made me feel that way. Mm-hmm. And so anytime you guys were near, I felt like I could, if I was scared, I could run behind you, and like hide behind your back because Mom's going to protect me. And I just feel like that's when I do feel safest, is having people around, because it's not necessarily like my house. I feel like my house is safe, but if Tim's not there, sometimes, like, my thoughts wander and I'm like, oh, am I really safe, or what? Something happened, So that's my answer.
I'm listening to you, and everything that you say makes absolute sense, because I do feel better when Dad's in the house. Mm-hmm. When he used to go on, trips with friends, and it would just be the three of us. Yeah. And so I knew on those weekends that I was on, and I didn't sleep very good.
Yeah.
Because heaven forbid if there's an earthquake, or, just there's
scary.
Things that, but I always knew we have this neighbor who was very protective of our kids. And so I always knew if Bob wasn't home and I needed help, I could call him. He'd be there in a second. And so having great neighbors also was helpful to me to feel safe. But I gotta say, I don't feel unsafe very often. I stay aware, not that bad things can't happen, but I don't, it's not the opposite of safe, and unsafe aren't the opposite to me.
Yeah.
I always feel that I'm just not scared about most things.
Yeah, I know. That's true. You aren't scared. Except for you did admit you were scared of water. So, you can't say you're scared of it.
I'm a little scared of water.
As you drink some.
Yeah. I can drink it and I can be in the swimming pool. You just can't get near me.
Yeah. Although you do have 2 grandsons that like to shoot water in the summer, so you're getting water gunned all the time.
I am, but I'm standing at the side of the pool
That's true.
while they're doing it. Grandpa is the one in the water under them, on his shoulders.
Dad likes the water, so yeah. All right, here's a funny question. This one says, what's something you're really bad at? I will tell you mine.
Okay, go. You go. You go, because I got to think about it.
I am so bad at directions. Like, do not ever ask me where anything is, because I'm going to be like, well, there's a 7-Eleven on the corner, and then you're going to cross the street, and then you'll see a gas station, and then over there, you're going to see a Target, and then past that Target, like, that's the only way. I know landmarks, and that's it. Geography, don't even get me started. Oh my gosh. I am just, like, I pride myself in being pretty intelligent in most subjects, but I am a complete dodo brain when it comes to directions. I tell you what, before there was maps on your phone and in your car, I would call my dad when I started driving at 16. That poor man. I'd call him probably like 4 or 5 times while I'm driving. This is before the cell phone law. It's like where you weren't supposed to be on your phone and drive. This was before that. So I would call him like literally, Dad, what's the off ramp? He's like, it's whatever. Euclid. and then literally 3 minutes later, Dad, what's the offer? I can't. He's like, Euclid. It's Euclid. And he was always so patient with me. But then I'm like, okay, so when I get off, I need to call you again. So have your phone next to you. And he's like, all right. I call him, okay, left or right, left or right. Hurry, hurry. I'm about to go left or right. And he's like, okay, right. And then you're going to go left. I'm like, wait, you're going too fast. And I'd literally be on the phone the entire way because I am so, for whatever reason, it just doesn't click. And I've tried to get better at it. So the maps in my car are great, except for when they're a little delayed. Oh, that gets me every time. So I don't really like driving. I prefer Tim to drive if we're going somewhere together. When I have to go alone and it's a new place, it's scary because I might get lost. And even with maps, it's just, that's what I'm bad at.
That's very true. You're directionally challenged.
Yes.
That is for real. I'm thinking what I'm really bad at as a trait, actually, is I'm not a very patient person. I get, that's what I say, I've never gotten really good at anything because I get bored before I get really good at it. And so I think, that I don't know if that means I'm really bad at it or it means I'm really bad at it. I mean, and then the other thing is that I'm not patient about, like one of the things that I got marked down when I was in school was instead of erasing things, I'd just mark them out. And every school year, my report cards would say, Susan's messy. Because who could take the time to erase? And then when you erase, it rips the paper anyway. And then you can't write it there anyway. So if you just scratch it out, you're good to go. And I'm still kind of like that, is that I don't like taking the time. If I'm going to do it, I want to do it. And I don't want to take the time to, I'm the opposite of a perfectionist. I guess that's a good way to say it.
Which is funny because my dad, her husband, is a perfectionist to the max. So I guess I got more of dad in that.
You did. You definitely did.
I feel like I didn't have as much patience until I got older too. And I will say, to your credit, you do have patience with your grandsons.
I love my grandsons.
I know.
That's not patience. That's just love.
But you do show, like, I feel like when we were kids, actually, I feel like you were pretty patient with us as kids.
Yeah.
Maybe other kids, not so much.
Yes. No.
And people, no.
No.
But that's a good one. I can see that. That makes sense. That you're
a little impatient and a little messy. Just with writing and stuff.
Yeah, not your house. I was like, your house
not my
is
house.
always clean.
No, my house isn't messy. But yeah, and I think it's knowing your limitations is important. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that you did to remedy your difficulty was you had dad on speed dial. Mm-hmm. And so for you to be out there, because you were going to soccer tournaments.
Yeah.
And you were driving places where we didn't want you to get lost.
I know.
So, man, what did we do before cell phones?
Seriously. Well, also, on top of calling my dad all the time, I would even print out, like, the map quests, like, we print them out. Everybody did that. And you would have that in front of you. And I would be following that. I swear, I don't know how I'd miss a street or whatever. And my dad, he has the patience that we both don't even have.
Yes.
And he was just always willing to take the call and help me through it. And I'd be like crying, having a full blown breakdown, like, I'm lost. I don't know where I am. He's like, it's okay. You're gonna be all right. He's such a good dad.
He is a good
him.
dad.
But yeah, that was a good question. We'll have time for one more question.
This is fun, Katie. Good idea.
Thank you. So there's a lot of great questions that I'm seeing in here, but there's one that's sticking out to me, and it says, do you often give people second chances? And why I find this interesting is because I have a story. Do you want to go ahead first, or?
You go.
Okay. Typically, I would say if it's like a small minor issue or something that, like, especially a friend that does something that might hurt your feelings, and you communicate to that person and then they change, like, that's not really giving it a chance. That's like, well, you're giving them the opportunity to make things right that maybe hurt you, and how they respond is then how you can respond to them. And so for the most part, if somebody really did me dirty, and like I remember in high school there was a girl that was just, we were such good friends. We were great friends through middle school until high school. And I had this health issue at one point. And my mom and I were going to all these specialists and trying to figure out what it was. And my friend at the time thought it would be so funny to tease me. And basically she pulled a prank on me that had to do with my health issue. I'm trying to talk around this. I don't really want to put it out there what it was. But it was just like a really mean practical joke. She like put stuff in my backpack and stuff, and she just thought it was so funny. Laughing. That was the last I ever talked to her. I literally, like, it hurt my feelings so bad that she like teased me and I felt like bullied. And the fact that like it was a medical issue that it was really long term, and we were trying to get to the bottom of it. And in fact, it was such a strange medical thing that there's a photo now of it in some medical book, because they were like, wow, we've never seen this before. But it was something that like was personal, and I had told her, and she like just was so mean about it. So most of the time when somebody really does burn me bad or did something to me that like really feels like disrespect from a friendship standpoint, I have no problem like not doing a second chance, because that's just plain out mean. But I will say, I had the person I'm thinking of, I had a friend, and she had a son, same age as my son, and we used to hang out all the time and do things together. And her kid was a little bit more aggressive, and in fact, like, quite mean to Benson. And so, like, there was one point where they were 3 years old. They were walking around this planter that had like a bench around it, and so on the inside of the bench was like this big bush, and her kid pushed my kid into the bush, and he's 3, so he just flies into the bush like pretty much like head first. His legs are sticking out and he's crying, and I see this happen, and I'm like waiting for her to come over and be like, don't do that, like, that's not nice, you don't push your friends. And you know, like, they're 3, so there's a learning thing there. I wasn't like mad that her kid did it. I was like more upset that she didn't say anything. I had to go in and tell the kid, like, don't do that, like, that's not nice, we don't put our hands on our friends, like, that's not cool, you know. Anyway, so I kind of like, that was a little note in my head, and I was like, okay. Then several other things happened, and so many things with this friend that were just so many red flags, but I kept giving her more chances because I had a big heart for her. She had some struggles and was a single mom and things like that. So I definitely like tried to help her out where I could and give her grace, and like, but at a certain point, it was like she was just taking advantage of my kindness, my generosity, and the fact that I let so many things go that I had to eventually talk to her. There was like something, you know, the straw that broke the camel's back. Something happened. And at that point, she just like was justifying her actions. And I kind of just like had to tell her, hey, for my mental health, I think it's best that we part ways. And she was real mad at me about that. She didn't talk to me ever again either after that. But I think sometimes you do need to protect yourself. And if somebody is going to start taking advantage of your kindness. And instead of being grateful and appreciative, I just felt like it was becoming like a pattern, and it wasn't suiting her or me. So it was best to end it. So I think giving second chances is for particular people and people that you see are changing after you've expressed to them that what they're doing is not something that you appreciate or approve of. So that's my take on that.
Those are really good ones. There was a lot in that you said that's really important. I think for me, a second chance means that something happened that was uncomfortable or mean or taking advantage or whatever it was. And I think that's that time where you use when somebody tells you who they are, believe them. And so when this has happened with me, I would generally go forward with the relationship. I just knew about them. And there are people that I know that I can't say things in front of because they will be used against me or against somebody I love. And there are people who I know that I don't want to spend too much time with because there's no reciprocity. Those people I know when I'm with them, I'm going to be a counselor with them. We're really not friends. I'm really an ear to listen to, and I'm happy to do that at some level. So, and there are people who I've cut out of my life because they were toxic, and they were. We are not a drama family. I don't have drama in my house. I don't have drama in my life. I don't want anybody else's. That sounds funny coming from a therapist. But I don't take that home with me. And when I have a friend who has a problem and I can be there to let them, spill their fears or sadness or whatever, I'm so happy to do that. And they do that for me when I have something that I want to talk about. So those one-way, they're not friendships, they're relationships. I just have these definitions, I guess I would say, for people in my life. I have just very few friends.
Well, you should describe your circle. What you already said. I feel like that's a cool way to end this.
Oh, yeah. Especially at the college. I had this way of explaining about friendships and people in your life because a lot of college students they're just so lonely, and they've come from high school where they had their group of friends to this giant college. There's 42,000 people at the college that I worked, and so they would come and they would know no one, and so they would feel like everybody I know, and some of this is just social media, but everybody has all these friends, and so we'd talk about this. I would draw a target. Like you'd play darts on my whiteboard and talk about those different rungs in the target and what those mean. And so what it would say is in the very, very middle would be your very closest friends. Those would be the people who you would tell anything to, that you'd feel like you were never at risk being with them. And for me, it's just me. I'm the only one in the middle there. The next rung out are the people who you trust, that you're really close to, that you favor as people that you want to be with. So that would be my husband, my kids, my sister, my mom, my best friend. Those people are there. The next rung out are people that you really like and you like to hang out with, and you'll go, like maybe people you work with because you really like them, but it's just really a work relationship. And the one on the last one are people like your grocery checker, or if you go to a restaurant all the time, and so they're people that you're really acquainted with. And then there's the outside, the Netherland, people who you never want to talk to or see again. And I think if you draw that and you put who's in those spaces, it helps you understand kind of what kind of relationship you can expect to be in with them, and know that friendships are hard to come by. They're very special. Katie has one that's an amazing friendship, and I would say I have three women that I just really value, and I have that relationship with.
I have more than one friend, Mom.
Well, I know, but you have.
But I have
that one
yes, like
that
my best
is,
friend who's
yes. I don't have one like
essentially
that.
like my sister.
Yeah, I don't
But you
have one.
a sister, so
I have a sister, yeah.
I don't, so she's my replacement
Yeah,
sister.
exactly. So that that was long-winded, but I think it's important to protect your boundaries. We keep talking about that, but boundaries are really important. To know that sometimes people have a bad day and they say something that they want to apologize to you for. Let them. Yes. And just know that sometimes they have bad days. It's
nice to get that apology too.
It is nice.
It's rare. I feel like I've had that happen before where somebody was like, hey, I'm really sorry. And I'm like, oh, that made all the difference.
Yeah.
Like all I needed to know was that what hurt me, you realized.
Yes.
And said, like that wasn't cool. So apologies go a long way, especially when it's not expected and
and from the heart.
Yeah.
It's not like, oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah.
That doesn't work.
That's not an apology.
I'm sorry if you felt hurt. That's not like that.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, did you have anything to add to that?
I don't think so. I think I talked a lot.
Okay. Well, we did. This was about us, I guess. Like it was fun to answer a couple questions. Not really... just a fun one. This is just a more laid back episode, so maybe we all needed it. We just needed a lighthearted one. But again, thank you all for watching. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for clicking the thumbs up button. And of course, if you have a question that you would like answered, or a thought, or a topic even that you want us to talk about, please give us an email. We'll put the email down in the description below. Or if you feel comfortable, you can leave a comment in the comment section as well. But if you want it to stay anonymous, go ahead and email us. But yes, we would love to hear from you guys. Again, topics, anything, just let us know. We can get into it. It's fun. So thanks so much for watching, and I guess that's it.
So thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.
All right. Bye.